In this video I would like to discuss the direction in which this channel will go. At least I do believe so. I have many conflicts within me, and I know broadly what is good and what is bad, because when I do something good, I feel good, and when I do something bad, I feel bad. So God has implemented within me a consciousness of good and evil. And I know that what I enjoy the most is reading books and understanding. If I listened to my selfish self, I would remain in my apartment, which is basically a library, and read books all day and show people how smart I am because I have understood everything or most things. But that would be evil, because the world is in a state of trouble. And I know, or I hope, I don't know, I hope that by sharing knowledge with others, others will be enlightened, and that this knowledge will enable them to stop being in a conflicting situation with one another. So I know what my selfish self wants, and I know what the good wants, and what the good wants, the good in me, if I have good in me, is to let go of my selfish self and just to be the link, the connection, because I know that I am the negative, and being the negative is very difficult. But it enables the negative to have a broad view of the totality. And I know that I possess a kind of knowledge that no one else possesses. Namely, I have seen the totality of being. And I know that the good within me, if I have good within me, is to show to others how they fit into the self-unfolding process of being becoming conscious of itself. So my job is to enlighten others by sharing with them the light that I stole from the vision of God, so to speak. That's not very proper way of talking, but... And I have a conflict in me because I am very influenced by Hegel. And Hegel says that the individual is worthless. And when I read this, a part of me is angry because I have a sense of will to have a self-worth. And I know that this is partly evil. But I resent Hegel for telling me that I am worthless. But at the same time, he says that consciousness, which is an individual, can only know and experience and understand what is within its own experience. So I have this conflict within me between my lower self, which is my empirical self, which is the individual that you see. I have my own psyche, my own history, my own desires and wickedness, my own evils, my own flaws, my own problems, and what I call my higher self, which is the expression of universal truth, universal reason. And my higher self does not belong to me as an empirical self, it belongs to everyone, because truth and universality are the belonging and the property of everyone. But the problem for me and the conflict arises from the fact that I cannot know my higher self without having experienced my lower self. And all the things that I know or that I am aware of, they come from the experience of being, the experience of the world that this empirical individual has had. So, what I will do until I change my mind, I guess, I will try to share two ideas. The development of spirit within the right-wing pagan community of Europeans, because all my spiritual experiences as an empirical individual, but which were actually experiences of my transcendental self coming conscious of himself through the mediation of another, have occurred within the right-wing pagan European community. If they, the right-wing pagans, did not exist, as a spirit, I would not exist. I owe my spiritual life to them. And I cannot spiritually enlighten any person on this planet before I have enlightened the pagan communities of right-wing Europeans. That's the first step. And second, the only idea that this individual, when he's honest, prides himself in having had is the idea of cultural Hegelianism. But if I think things through, I must be honest and say that I'm not sure that this was my empirical self who had the idea. It was probably world spirit becoming conscious of itself who had this idea about himself, because the process of the development of consciousness is dialectical, and cultural Marxism had to dialectically bring forth its own dialectical negation, which would be cultural Hegelianism. So the idea of cultural Hegelianism does not belong to me, if I'm honest. But what belongs to me as of now is the vision of what it is. And as I qualified cultural Hegelianism when spirit thought about what it would be, it was the bringing forth of Christ consciousness through the mediation of modern pop culture, mostly American, but not only, modern pop culture, the mystical teachings of Julius Evola, the king of traditionalism, and Hegel's philosophy, which would have been enriched by the negation of the historical classical philosophy of Hegel. So Hegel's philosophy, which would incorporate within itself the non-Hegelian, post-Hegelian philosophers. And that, this trinity, which, in order to make itself intelligible to myself, I ironically called Avril Lavigne, Julius Evola, and Hegel, was the coming into being of Christ. That's what I thought. I did not understand the meaning, the consequences, the depth. It was this vision was too big for me at the time. I did not understand what I myself said, so I was overwhelmed by the vision. But now, many years later, I have understood that the only ideas that I can bring into the world, which have not been self-produced by the world itself, is just to be the connection, to be the link, and to show to others that they are unconscious cultural Hegelians, because they use modern pop culture, religion and philosophy to speak about any topic. And eventually, cultural Hegelianism is the self-movement of being, which must include within itself the totality of the consciousness and the knowledge of being. That's what I called the self-actualization of God. So what I will do, because my time is limited and the amount of information that I receive from all over the world is so huge, I cannot think of every particular topic on my own. It's too much for a simple individual. I am limited. My days last 24 hours. I need to rest and to eat, and I have basic biological needs without which I cannot sustain a psychologically balanced lifestyle. I have my wicked tendencies which make me waste time, and I have a limited intellect. I am just a brain. As an individual, I am an individual brain, and IQ tests say that I am smarter than the average, but I am not smart enough to the point of understanding the totality of being. It's impossible for an individual. So the only idea that I can bring is to show others who or what they are in this process. And what this means is that from now on I will try to be faithful to my own philosophy, which is not my own. I don't know whose philosophy it is. Maybe it's God's philosophy. That would be that would be comical. What I call my own philosophy and my own religion, namely to try to mix in each of my videos moments of Hegel's philosophy, Julius Evola's teachings, and modern pop culture to fit with the topics that I'm discussing. And I need to enlighten and to awaken others, because I cannot self-awaken as a spiritual being without awakening the whole of being. So, yeah, I will try to be a cultural Hegelian to the end, because that's the only idea that I know, I guess. So, yeah.